Thanks, Jeffrey. So, sorry for not introducing myself at the beginning. So, I'm Joshua. I work with EBI, which Jeffrey is also a part of. So, it's a independent record label where we look to help out artists and then help to publicize their work. So, our question for you, Vanessa, is if someone is coming up in the industry, someone who has got performed in front of their family, at church, at local events, what advice would you give them when entering into the music industry?
An amazing tool which artists have been using to, I guess, promote and share their music and spread the music. And as much as people often have they're grappling with it, a lot of people see it as something positive, and a lot of people also don't like it and seeing it as more as something negative. Like if you look at it objectively, it's a tool like Instagram and like Twitter, like SoundCloud, like all other online platforms that people are on. So I feel like if you've made the decision to be an artist, I think just explore the world of TikTok and find a way which works for you so you can maintain your artistic integrity. Because if anything, that is probably a channel which, if you can create a following and a platform on, it has a massive, massive effect on the ability for people to share your music and actually take your artistry into consideration. For example, we have artists like Pink Pantheress, who's just won BBC Sound Award of 2022, and no one really knew her name like 2 years ago. Like last year is really when she erupted into the scene through TikTok, through like very clever uses of the channel. So if anyone is coming up, I would definitely say, number one, like, are you utilizing social media to the best of your ability, and are you finding a way which doesn't compromise your artistic integrity? Because I think a lot of the time, the conversations we're having at labels with the artists out on our rosters is like, I don't want to do a dance. And, you don't have to be dancing on TikTok to be on TikTok. You can find a way which works for you. The same way with like a YouTube channel. There's a really interesting YouTuber that I always talk about called Emma Chamberlain, who is from the US, and she's been coined by Vogue to be like the most popular girl in the entire world. She has a humongous amount of followers and followings, and her videos are very stylized, and I call them like mini films in the way that she edits her content. And I think the reason why I'm referencing her is because she is someone who's used like a platform which can be seen to be a certain like commercially like poppy sort of like, hey guys, welcome back to my channel type vibe. But she's managed to do that in a way which feels quite artistic and relevant to what she wants to do. Obviously, she's not an artist, but there's people like Pink Pantheress, who is probably the most left field and obscure artist of our generation, who literally doesn't really post on Instagram regularly at all. If anything, I think she has like 3 posts or something. She has utilized a poppy dance channel like TikTok to her ability, to the point where she doesn't need to post because her shows will just sell out immediately. So I would say that. I would also say collaborate and network across rather than networking up first. So just finding out people who are doing the same thing in your area, your local scenes. Are you connected with upcoming radio presenters? Are you connected with upcoming agents? Are you connected with upcoming club promoters? Are you connected with upcoming festival bookers? Like, try and find these people who are coming up in the industry at the same level as you, because in 5 to 10 years' time, they are going to be running things and they are going to be in your team, and they're going to be on side. So I think making those connections and having personal relationships with people is very powerful. If your goal is to be signed or if it's to be independent, either way, having personal relationships with people is going to help you along the way. Because I know that, maybe there's an assumption that if you're signed to a label, that your label will take on all that labor. But actually, if you're a name that people have already heard of and people have respect for and you have a great reputation, it would be like, oh, we've got this, we're working with PR at the moment, doing some press for this artist, XYZ. Oh, yeah, I know XYZ from back in the day. They used to perform at my live sessions in, I don't know, Deptford. Yeah, they're sick. And they know my cousin, blah, blah, blah. And people will just have an affinity towards you because they already know who you are, and they will be more inclined to help you and bring you in for more projects. So network across and just be collaborative in your approach, and just keep pushing as well, and figure out your direction and what you want to do. What is the music that you want to make for now, and like where's that vision? Are you going for legacy? Like what is your overall like story? I think as well, like what is the story that you want to present to your audience? Because if you can create a lovely story and a narrative, people are more likely to join in and like join you on that journey, and you can build that personal relationship with your fan base, which leads me on to my third thing, which is like building your fan base and having direct links with your fans and being in touch with them directly, and having like a connection with them, like it is going to be very beneficial, because essentially your fan base is you as an artist. If you don't have a fan base, like it's going to be very difficult to be able to live off your art, basically. So I'm not saying that you're not an artist without a fan base. You obviously are an artist in your own right, but if you do want to monetize from your art, and if you want to make a living off your art, and you want to become commercially successful, then having a fan base is going to be crucial for that. And how you do that is obviously through your social media channels, but also ensuring that you are active, and that you're diligent with that, because consistency is really important, and being able to make those personal connections so people can make the connection online and digitally is going to be really, really helpful for that. So I know I've spoken for a long time, so I'm just going to leave it with those areas.
Thank you. That's really, really good answers. And like to your first point, which is the future of the industry, I was listening to a Jay-Z interview. So he was basically saying that since he came into the whole music industry, he saw like from cassettes to CDs, which was a change, from CDs to like MP3, and then the prevalence of like full on spending, the P. Diddy late 90s music videos where people would spend millions on music videos that looked like elaborate films. And then he said then it came with the illegal downloads from like the early 2000s up until like 2010. And he said like the key point now is with streams. And to your point about using TikTok, using Instagram, Facebook, and even Twitter to basically link all of this content to your actual streams, I think is really important for artists. So like I've seen a lot of artists on social media who've been able to get signed through TikTok, get signed through Instagram, through YouTube, and I've been able to see it that way. And also on your point on like collaboration, it's like, because I'm quite a bit older than my younger brother, so I remember like the old days of grime. So like you would have like Lord of the Mic, people YouTube videos, people recording in basements. You'd have like Skepta, Wiley, Getz, Kano battling each other. But then now you've seen that their relationship that they've built, they've actually brought each other up. And the fact you've got Wiley with like Boy Better Know, and you've also got like Skepta with his brother JME. In fact, you've got like collaborators with like DEE and Kano who've been working together for so long, and you've also got Getz and Kano who've been working for so long. And the fact that they've been able to like create a group, a knit of them, and then they've been able to push each other up, be on each other's albums, being able to publicize for each other. And like one of the stories that I found out like really recently, which is amazing, the fact that J. Cole was like in the studio with Dr. Dre. And then Dr. Dre was like, "Oh, have you heard of this guy called Kendrick Lamar? Because I heard he's really good." And J. Cole was like, "Yeah, sign him. You need to sign that guy. That guy is amazing." And the fact that Kendrick Lamar built a relationship with J. Cole enabled him to be signed, enabled him to be then put on a platform that could then boost his career. And like even to your final point, which is on fans, I think one of the things I've seen is that you need to have like a strong core fan base. And like I was listening to like a podcast that Kevin Hart was on, and he was like, one of the things I always try and do is do stuff for the fans. Like even at the beginning, he would like have at the end of his comedy shows, especially if it's like in a local club, he would like, "Oh yeah, please write down," this was before social media, "write down your email addresses down. So then when I'm back in this city, whether it be London, New York, if it's in Los Angeles, I can then email you, type away and say, 'Oh, I'm back again. You liked my show. So now you can come and listen to me again.'" And I think with social media, if you can then build up like a core fan base, you can be like on Instagram or on Twitter, "Oh, I've got this brand new album coming out. Please listen here." And I think with the amount of different artists and different things people can watch with streaming for films, streaming for sports, even like streaming for video games, which my brother really loves to watch, is that you really need to get a core fan base and get them interested in you as a person and not just into your music. And I think that's what is really key about social media, that you have a niche that really works. So I think one of the artists that I've seen really grow, who's used it a lot, is Tyler, the Creator. I remember like when he came out in 2009, I was like, oh, I think it was called Yonkers, I think the album was called. It's either Yonkers, yeah, called Yonkers. And I was like, he has this unique sound and it's really good. And I think one of the things I've seen him do is that he's basically evolved with his fan base. And the fact that he's always stayed true to who he is, stayed true to the music he's producing, and he's been able to carry his fans along with him. And I think now you see him winning Grammys, and I'm like, from way back in 2009 when he released his first album, you wouldn't have thought, oh, this artist is going to be in a Grammy. This artist is going to be on main stage with some of the greatest rappers in the world. And I think being able to then have a core fan base, take it with you, is really important. And I think for the last thing I'll say for now is that I've listened to like so many artists, whether it's like a comedian or a singer or an actor, it's that they always stress that the people who keep us relevant is our core fan base, because the fans who are like, oh, this person's really hot for a minute now, oh, somebody else is hot, it's the core fan base that always keeps saying, yeah, we still want more comedy shows from Kevin Hart, we still want another album from Timbaland, we still want to hear another Adele album. And I think that continues to better these artists and keep working and keep grinding as well.
Yeah, and I think lastly, before we pass on to Samuel for the next question, is when you both were talking about, social media, the one that popped up to me was, and I'm not sure if you guys know about him, Munya Chihuahua. This guy is, he's one of the funniest people I've seen. If you haven't seen his stuff, please do check him out. He does a lot of funny sketches, especially about stuff on the news, especially a lot with politicians, with all that's happened recently. And I think the reason why it's really good is because he had his character segment, and one of his characters was obviously, for those who know him, is Unknown P, which was supposed to be like this posh grime rapper, which in itself sounds like a very funny, oxymoron. And it was really crazy because he then posted, I think it was either last year or in 2020, that he was saying that he got signed to a record label from it. Like all the sketches he was doing, he then got signed onto it. So I think, like you guys were saying, and that's one of the reasons why I love the site that we use for our episode, Buzzsprout, is because it allows us to connect with our fans directly, see the things that they like. And one of the key things that they did at the start of the year for, anyone who wanted to start like a content creation or podcasting, they did this this YouTube short on YouTube about it. And they were saying like the one thing that you just need to do, and I think this is key for everything, is just start. And they said, when you're thinking about it, you'll be like, oh my gosh, that person from secondary school that I spoke to that, is into music and I haven't seen them since, they might, judge me on what it is, or, I'm this person at work might be like, oh my gosh, you make music, that's going to suck and this and that. But they were saying like, no, like as long as you're happy with it, as long as you're doing something that you're passionate about, you shouldn't try and put yourself in like this box. And then, it was they ended it in a funny way. And I guess I'm going to end my section in the same way, is they were just saying, hey, look, and if they don't like it, that's one more listener that's listened to your content, or that's one more person who's watched your content. So, you're getting views at the very least. But yeah, I'm now going to hand over to Samuel for our next question.
Cool, thank you. I was actually going to say something about this previous bit just before I go in. And when you guys were talking about like how to get into the industry and stuff like that, I was thinking I remember reading about Lil Nas X. I don't know if you know about the person. He's like an American singer. And he's become very, very famous, literally out of nowhere. And I was just like, where did this guy come from? So I looked at his Wikipedia like a little while ago. And he started off as like making like comedy videos on YouTube. He made like fake Nicki Minaj accounts and stuff like that, and sort of like built up followings and stuff. He then bought the song or the tune like for Old Town Road for $30 off some Dutch person. And it became like I don't know if he changed it or he used the same thing, or like I don't know where he made the changes, but he made some changes. And it was TikTok that like blew him out, because people started using his songs for like TikTok videos. And that is literally how he went from literally just making like random fake accounts of people doing like silly little YouTube videos to being like, now he's got more sales than most people that have been in the industry for freaking years and years. So it's like amazing how like TikTok has been a platform where literally you can go from absolutely nothing to like massive, like the biggest thing over lockdown. How many times did everyone hear Old Town Road during lockdown? I know I'd heard it so many times, they just weren't still playing it. Like you couldn't escape the song. So like, yeah, it does just show like, yeah, that if you can build up a following, I think he already had that, like he'd spent quite a lot of his youth like building up this personality, like an online personality that he had when he was using these accounts and stuff like that. It was saying that, I actually said that in one of it. I quickly looked at the Wikipedia page again, just in case I got it completely wrong. And and he was actually like, yeah, he built up his like personality like online, and just like, and now he's got a platform that he can literally spread a message of whatever he wants to do. It's an amazing opportunity. I think he's going to use it well. I know that he's already started sort of putting out some good messages, I think. But I guess we'll see. But anyway, sorry, moving on to the next. I just thought I'd just say that. But moving on to the next question. And again, it's for Vanessa. It's like, how has following your passions help support your own mental health?
I think it's been crucial, but it's interesting because I feel like it's actually been part of maintaining like good mental health, but it's also been the thing that's given me probably the most mental health problems. I think people in the creative industry in music may agree that it's a difficult industry to navigate, and it's a difficult space to stay in and stay motivated in, just because it is so unpredictable, irrespective of your role, whether you are the artist creating it or whether you are supporting artists in their digital campaigns, because you always want to win, and sometimes it's not up to you. It's up to the fans if we're talking about music. So it can be a very overwhelming experience. When it's good and when things go well, it's amazing because it's such a high. But when things don't go to plan, it can be it can be really disappointing and can really affect your mental health in a negative way. So I think following my passions has been really important for me, because it's helped me to have some direction and vision, but also it's hard because you're so emotionally connected to what it is that you're doing. So you're always, it's hard to not take things personally, which I'm trying to work on. But it is hard to not do that, and to just take things as they are. So that's how I would probably answer that question.
Nice. And I guess with with your passions and stuff, like you follow them, it's a better feeling than not following them. But then, like you're saying, when you get caught up in it and the highs and the lows of like the failures and the successes, like it literally sends you on an emotional roller coaster from like day one. Maybe not day one, you've got a little bit of optimism. You're like, I'm going to do it. I'm going to get, you're like really like, oh, I've got this plan in my mind. Some people start organizing stuff. And then but anyway, I won't go too much into that, but yeah, basically it is like an emotional roller coaster. And I was just thinking, I know no one's asked for my advice, but I'm just going to give it anyway, because I'm one of those people.
No one's asked for
No one even asked. But there's this like really old story about like some king from like somewhere in the Middle East many, many years ago. And he was like super wealthy. He had like his own kingdom. He had a family. He had like ticked off all the boxes of just like winning at life. But then there was times when he'd have arguments with his family. His kingdom was like being thrown into like war and economic crises and stuff. And he was just like, he was like, I'm so wealthy. I've got everything I need. But why do I keep being thrown into like the downs? And like, it like really hits me down. And then when I'm like feeling like everything's going right, I'm like loving it, and then it just like before I know it, I get smashed down again and stuff. So he brought all of the wisest people in the region, because he could afford them all, into his palace, and he was just like, you've got to find an answer for this. And they came back with like a ring. It was like a very simple ring, and it literally said, it said this too shall pass. So like this will end basically. Like everything is temporary, is what it was saying. And they were saying like, okay, so when you go through those lows, just know that you're going to get out of it. You always have, and you always, you know, chances are you always will. Like it's just a temporary thing. Don't get too caught up, too attached to this low, this defeat. It's actually a very temporary thing. Like use this defeat as like a lesson, as a way of getting up and all the things that go with it. But then they said like, also importantly, when you get too high, also know that it's not going to last forever. Otherwise you get too attached to it. And then when you get taken away from it, it's like your world has ended and whatever. So it's their message was just like, when you're super, super, like everything's going right, I guess be humble and grateful for where you are and don't get too like attached to everything going right. And when everything's going wrong, and when everything's going right, just know that there has to be an end to like the best times of your life, or like if you're having a really amazing time, it's going to end. And then but if you don't get too attached to it, when it goes back to normal, it's okay. And I think also when you go too far down, knowing that it's going to come back to normal at some point also gives people, but anyway, that's a little story, but based off of what you're saying. But anyway, this is the advice no one asked for, but I decided to give it anyway.
I love it. I just wanted to say, first of all, with what Sam said, fun story. I'm glad you told it. But also, it does make sense, like with the whole whatever must come up, must come down, or whatever the saying is. Like you can be, you know, like the best time of your life is only the best time of your last life because it doesn't last. Not in like a depressing way, but it's like you can't appreciate. Like if you were, say you were always happy, I feel like, you know, you wouldn't really realize it and you wouldn't appreciate it as much because, you know, the lows come with highs. Do you know what I mean? Like it's just part of it.
Thanks, Samuel. That was a really good story. And I think one of the things that being artists, also being in the creative industry, is that you always need to remember that there are going to be highs and lows, and that you should always maximize when you're in the high period. So you've seen like so many artists who, I can give an example of one, Fetty Wap, who was at his high, but then started to then go down in his level of fame. And then people are, oh, it's because he's not making the hits that like he used to. And he said, and then I actually read into his story that all the beats that he made and all the songs he made before he got signed. So then what happens is then the label then convinced him to then release all of the songs that he made before they signed him, but then reneged on him when it was time for him to then make songs with them. So I think one of the things that you see a lot of artists, and I think one of the people that I think is a classic example is Cardi B, is that she knows this is her time. This is her period of her highest point of fame, and she's using it. And even Megan Thee Stallion as well. Both of them are using this time to be able to basically be able to gather as much fame and being able to sell as much records as they can. Because even the fact that you've got Megan Thee Stallion, who's going to be in I think she's going to be in the She-Hulk TV series. And I think you've even got like Rihanna, who's selling perfume. We've got so many people in the music industry now also having things outside and using their platform and fame from the music industry to then be able to build their finances and other things as well.
But yeah, we're going to hand over to Michelle. I know she's got something to say before she does the last question. So Michelle, over to you.
Yes, so I remembered what I was going to say. But it was, Vanessa, when you were mentioning, like, obviously being part of the creative industry and like with ups come the downs, and that can be stressful because you're like, you know, it's been the best of my life, but it's also like brought some of the worst or whatever, which like is completely fair. And I just wanted to mention, because basically that's kind of where I am like right now, because basically I graduated, it's not the same, but basically I do design. And like I graduated and I got this job, and it was absolutely like not unrelated at all to like the kind of work that I wanted to do. And I was like, oh, it's fine. Like I'll need a job. It can't be, I'm not expecting it to be the dream, but I was like, it can't be that bad. And like, I honestly, it just ended up making me so much worse because I just couldn't care even a little bit about what I was doing. And I just felt so like useless. And obviously like the job that I was doing is going to be somebody's dream job. Like that's how things are. But for me, it was just like, I don't want to be doing it. And on top of that, I just felt like so useless, I guess. Not entirely useless, but it's just the way that it was going, it just, all the work that I felt like I was doing was just not important, and it was just really getting to me. And I know not everybody has to do something that's important, but to me, it was just very much like, this isn't what I want to be doing, and it's very clear to me. And now I'm like trying to figure out, how do I end up doing the things that I actually want to be doing? Because I just feel like, as much as it can bring, the hardships, it's just having that journey, having that path. You know what you're working towards, and it's just to be the best you can be. And you can't be the best you can be in a place you don't want to be. But yes, anyway, following on.
Just quickly, Michelle, to your point, I did kind of feel the exact same way, because I came up doing engineering. So then like doing physics and maths at A levels, and then doing engineering for 3 years. And then I got to the start that I actually started working as an engineer. I was thinking, I can't really do this for the rest of my life. I was thinking 30 years, I'm going to still be in the whole engineering sector. So then that's when got me involved in thinking about like music, because one of the things I've really enjoyed is creating beats, listening to beats, and then writing songs as well. And I thought, why don't I try and do some of this in the background and also continue to work? And I think that's maybe something you could do, is find a hobby that you have and see if it's some way that you can mold it and put it with what you're currently doing, and see if there's a way for you to actually like transition from working full time in a job that you're, or a field you're not interested in, into something you are actually interested in, and helping to build that up.
And
Definitely.
yes, and just one thing to add to what Joshua was saying is, I know, our first ever episode, which Samuel led on, was on like how to follow your passion in a difficult world in this like post-pandemic, or I don't know, like pandemic world. Like, how do we follow our passions and do stuff? And I think one of the things, we didn't mention it in that episode, but one of the things that someone said to me afterwards was that, I guess I'm not even saying like our generation, like, limiting it just to our generation. But people are saying that like nowadays it's seen as like being acceptable that a person can be like, you know what, I studied, like you're saying, Joshua, like you studied engineering, but actually my passion is music. So I want to do something with music. Or, like for myself, I studied environmental sciences, but literally exactly like you were saying, I was just like, you know what, as much as I love environmental sciences and like all the different stuff that they do, I was just like, I know I can't work in a lab for like 20 to 30 years, because I know that lab work bores me and it's not going to be fun. And I think, like you were saying, that just finding those areas that you enjoy. I know in the episode that we had with you about like how to, why we should never suppress creativity, we spoke about like our MC of the month was Hit Record. And that might be a place that Michelle wants to check out. It's great because it allows you to upload, you can upload your own content of like pictures and poems and music and stuff, and other people can hear it and comment on it. And I think it's really good because it builds up that supportive network. But one of the amazing things that I didn't know, and it only happened to me recently, and like when it happened, I was like screaming around the house because it was like amazing, was that the people who like, are a part of the main team of Hit Record, they can like highlight and on the community section like feature you as like as a person, and they can say like, this picture or this painting is like amazing. So I know that for ages I've been on there for like maybe 2 years, and it was only like a couple of weeks ago that they then like shared like this one photo, and I can put the photo up as well so people can see it. But like they shared this photo, and this guy was just like, oh my gosh, this photo looks really good. It looks like it could be an album cover. And I was just like, oh my gosh, like, I'm not trying to even monetize my photography, but like the fact that someone thinks like my photography is good is like really nice. Yeah, I think that's like a really good thing to highlight. But yeah, I'm going to now pass over back to Michelle for the final question before we go to our new segment, Passing the Mic.
Hi, yes, I'm back. Sorry, I'm no, but definitely, you guys are all so right about it. So the plan is just follow my dreams and see what comes up. Okay, so the final question is, what are some of the resources available for people of color when it comes to mental health?
I think the best resource would be Black Minds Matter. So they are a charity which is on a mission to provide free therapy to Black and Black people within the UK, Black families, Black individuals, Black working professionals. And they have teamed up with Black therapists across the country to provide that service. And they also run an amazing platform on Instagram, which has an array of infographics and assets that have industry professionals giving advice on areas from performance anxiety to depression to anxiety to loneliness, and just monitoring, just managing those things, and having top tips that you can just always call upon, which is fantastic. And they do a lot of cross collaborative work with celebrities and key members within the Black community as well. And they do a lot of work to just highlight the problems that other people are dealing with in order to just create that sense of community and relatability, that you are not alone and you can call upon people and it's okay to speak, basically. And they do a really fantastic job at that. So I'd say that is a platform that is amazing, and you can sign up to their waiting list in order to receive help as well. And there's also a website which I believe I'm gonna find the name and then we can add it in. But it's a website which has every single Black accredited counsellor and therapist in the UK, and you can find them there, and it's amazing. That's how I found my therapist, and it's just a great resource. So shout out to whoever put that together. We love to see it. So I definitely recommend finding that if you are seeking therapy or are looking into that option. And yeah, I think those two spaces are fantastic places to start with when it comes to just general mental health for people of color.
Amazing. No, that's so good. Great answer.
Yeah, and I think
they have those all.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I think, it's not, I guess this one isn't specifically for people of color, but I've said it before, Mind is a really great organization when it comes to mental health. And one of the things that I really like, that I didn't know they did this before I followed them on LinkedIn, was they have targeted posts for specific job fields. So they were saying if you're a manager and, you're in charge of a team, they said, when it came to, people unsure of whether they'd be going back to work or not, they said, please bear in mind that, some people might not want to work in the office, or they might not necessarily want to sit next to you anymore because they're, conscious of COVID. And I think that that's one of the things that I really like that Mind do, is they have these targeted, specific, stuff. So where they did stuff for if you work within the education system, bear in mind that some of your students, whether it's higher education like university, or whether it's sixth form or secondary school or even primary school, they said children and I guess young adults might not necessarily feel comfortable to be around, be in a classroom anymore. And they always offer tips, which is really good. So yeah, that they're another shout out to them because they do a lot of amazing work, and I'd recommend this if you don't follow them on LinkedIn or Instagram or wherever, that you definitely check it out. But yeah, we now come to our newly added segment, Passing the Mic, where we get our wonderful guest speakers to, essentially, we're passing them the mic to ask us a question. So now I'm officially going to pass the mic over to Vanessa. She's prepared a question for us today, and the four of us will be answering it. So Vanessa, over to you. Could you please let us know the question that you've asked us?
Yes, I'm now holding the mic. I feel very powerful. My question is, when is the last time you tried something for the first time?
It's a very good question, because genuinely I had to think, when was this? I would say, this is going to be difficult. So I think I'm going to name three. So I think 2020, which I know it was a while ago, but 2020 saw me going back to languages. So like I was saying before about, I wanted, I guess, to do something within the pandemic, and languages was one of them. So I was just like, hey, I want to go back to learning languages. I used to know, I studied Japanese for GCSE. So I was just like, I want to go back and, regain this knowledge. As a family, we normally travel to Spain a lot. So I was just like, I want to pick up on some Spanish. So I think using Duolingo, languages was probably the furthest away. But also, I guess, more recently in 2021 and I guess this early part of 2022 is I've gotten back to reading books. Now it's not I guess I never didn't read books. I always loved reading books, especially when I was growing up. And it's just, I guess, I don't know whether it's just the busy schedule of a uni student, or whether it's just, when you're at secondary school, like most of the time you had a library, so you could just take books out there, so you didn't necessarily have to go out of your way to buy books. But yeah, one of the things that I definitely got back into was reading, and like reading, especially now, like books that are, it sounds wrong to say like interesting, but I think more along the lines of books that like come up with like interesting theories. So, in typical, Blue Peter fashion, I've got the book with me here. This book, Michael Rosen's book of play, I had to read it for my assessment that I was doing as a part of one of my modules. But this book, like, generally, I wouldn't necessarily go so far as saying it changed my life, but it like really made me think about when it came. So the whole book in itself is just saying like, as whether you're an adult or a child, it's talking about the idea of play. So it's saying like over time how we as a species have been creative, we've been thinking really like insightful, and I think the reason why going back to this has been really fun is because like the author, he essentially like doesn't care. So he was saying like, this is your book. He said you can do whatever you want with it. He said if you feel like what I've said is a pile of rubbish, cross it out. He was like, if you feel like this is like the most life-changing thing ever, like scribble, underline it, highlight it. He was like, I don't care what you do with the book. This is something that is your own thing. So that's my second one. And my last one, which I've kind of stopped, but I definitely need to go back into, is I've been trying to like learn a new skill every couple of months. So 2020 saw me like the first time I tried to use like Adobe stuff. So I've used like video editing software before, but I'd never used like Premiere Pro or Premiere Rush. So I was just like, I generally want to try and get back into video creation. I love doing it as when I was younger. So I was like, I'm going to try and do it now. And that's been really fun. But yeah, definitely the one that I've sort of been putting off, which I've started to go back to again, is Illustrator, because Illustrator was the one that just like went over my head. But yeah, just learning these new skills has been really fun, because it's meant that I can just like designate time to like do stuff. It's I guess bringing back this idea of like how pandemic sort of like made things like go out of haywire, like a lack of a schedule sometimes. I think it's been really good to get that. So yeah, I'd say those are my three things. But what about you, Samuel? When's the last time you tried something new?
I don't know. There's so many. I mean, the very, the newest, the freshest of the new stuff, I don't think would really be that interesting. It's stuff just like, I don't know, just like everyday things. But I would say probably one of the interesting things that I did over lockdown, and again, it's just one of those lockdown like new things that people pick up. I think everyone's probably got at least one thing. Like one of them was actually baking. So I started baking like bread, making like fresh bread. But I decided actually I just ended up eating an entire loaf of bread in a day. And I was just like, okay. So I've stopped making it now for my own personal health reasons. But apart from that, like making bread was really good. But I think the one thing that I was probably like I've stuck with was just like free time. And I was like, I can like when we get our one walk a day, I can take some pictures. So I got into photography. I started off with my phone, and then because I was like working and no one was going out, wasn't really doing anything, I was just like, okay, so I can invest a little bit. So I've got a camera and a lens, and just taking photographs. It's like really like when I look at the world, and I think you can probably agree as well, Jeffrey, because you're a fellow photo guy. This is when you look through the world, like I just see stuff now, I'm just like, oh, that would make an amazing picture. And you can sort of like, I don't know, like the whole world now I see is like more beautiful than I did before. Like sometimes I just pass them and be like, oh, it's a nice view, or whatever. And then when I think, oh, that's a nice view that could go in a photo, and I was just like, actually, that's really beautiful. And now I just get right, really just like by the stuff I see, I think it like, I put it in a higher regard, like, and I think that's really good. But also, like, I always thought, oh, I'm going to need a dog as an excuse to go on a walk. Like, oh, damn it. And then you got to feed it and do all that. Actually, you just need a camera, and you can just say, I'm going for a walk to take pictures. So that's so much easier for people. There's a life hack there. But that's my new stuff. What about you, Michelle? You're next.
I'm sorry. I really like the fact that you were like, oh no, I'm going to have to get a dog to go on a walk. I don't know why, that just makes me giggle.
You can't just go and walk, you know?
You can. I believe in you, Sam. But yes, what is my thing? Okay, so actually, I thought the question was kind of fun because I was thinking about it, and I was like, I'm So I know there's a lot of people who aren't like that comfortable with trying new things, but I feel like I'm very much like, give me the new things, get it, very exciting. Anyway, what was I was going somewhere with that. Anyway, sorry. So one of the things, so I tried to this year, one of the things I really personally don't really do is read. And I really wanted to get back into reading. So now I've been reading more as well, like Jeffrey. But then I've also been trying to get back into like doing art for fun, just because obviously like I love art and just like being creative. Like I just always have. That's why I did design. But for the last few years, I've obviously like, so in high school, I had art like as a class. So as much as I did art kind of because I had to. And even though I had a good time, I was doing it because I have a deadline or I have a grade or I have this. And then I got to uni and I learned about design. But again, like I've been doing things mostly because they had to be done, not because I was in the mood for them. So I'm trying to get back into doing that. But one of the things I did that I've never done before was read on the tube and draw on the tube, because I'm trying to be less of a, because my phone just annoys me, to be honest. So I'm trying to, and then that gets me doing the hobbies that I want to be doing anyway. So I've been drawing on the tube, I've been reading on the tube, and I just feel like, you know, like that girl. I feel so cool. But yes. And then lastly, I bought this the other day. Oh, you can't see it. Oh, darn it. Wait, anyway, it's
you can kind of see it. You can kind of see it.
It says sew your own embroidery. And it's a tiny little pack. And I got it at Sainsbury's. And it was £3. And I was like, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to embroider. But yes, that's what I've been up to. And it's been really fun because it's just getting back into doing things that I wanted to be doing. So it's just exciting. But yeah, anyways, what about you, Joshua?
So for me, I would say like there's like three things. I think one of the bigger ones was like speaking and collaborating with other artists. So I think one of the things for me is that I've always found it difficult to collaborate with other artists. I'm like, what if they say no? What if they say my music isn't good enough? What if they like, no, I'm not really interested? So one of the things I've been able to do is like collaborate with them and then even like create like showcase videos with them. And it's been really, really successful. We've been able to, my brother helps out as well, especially with his Adobe stuff as well, that we've been able to then put it on Instagram. The artists have really loved it. They've really enjoyed it. They've been able to like show off their work to brand new audiences. I mean, it's really helpful that way. Another thing that I've been doing as well is like exploring like my local area. Cause like I kept on just thinking to myself that I've walked past this road like 20 times and I haven't even gone down it at all. I've just been going straight past it. Where does this road actually lead? So basically I've been doing that like during like my lunch break because I've been working from home. And now I know like literally every shortcut in my area. So like when my people in my family are, oh, where is this? Oh, I know where it is. It's like 2 minutes that way, walk that way. And I think it's just like the amount of time that we are in an area but not actually know what's in the area. Like for me, like there's a Polish restaurant just down the road. And I just realized I never knew it was there because I would just have my headphones in, just walking down straight, rushing to the train station and then walking straight to the train and actually not seeing like my local area. And I think one of the good things is that now I know and I can actually experience it. And the last thing is something that I've started today is watching Killing Eve. Because my friends and colleagues keep telling me about the show, how amazing it is, how great it is. So I was like, you know what, I might as well just give it a go. And I've watched the first episode, which is really good. So I'm going to continue.
For giving shout outs, definitely Killing Eve is a really good one. It's definitely a good recommendation. But I think also, like you were saying, Joshua, the idea of like actively, I guess, like what Vanessa was saying before, the networking has been really, really good. And, it's great to see that you've been doing that. We've been doing it here with our amazing guest speakers, and it's been great to learn more about them and to learn a bit more about, I guess, us as a team. Because, I never knew, Michelle hadn't read on the tube before. I didn't know that Samuel had recently, got into photography. So I've got a fellow photographer with me as well, which is great. But yeah, it's always good to like learn new things about people. And literally, I know in a couple episodes before, the question was about like, what's that one piece of knowledge that you didn't know? And I think like when I heard that, that's going to be like my new thing, because the speaker for that episode, Mandek, was saying that that's like a conversation thing that she always does. So if she meets someone new, she's always just like, what's like that one piece of knowledge that you know that no one else knows? And I was just like, I might have to start doing that because it is really interesting knowing like what people do know. And even like today, from all the answers that you've given, it's really good to know that. Now, I know, Vanessa, we didn't actually prepare this, but, you know, since everyone's answers have been so interesting, I was wondering, you know, if you could answer your own question. And what's that when was the last time you tried something new? What's something new that you've, you know, picked up or started doing? If you could just let us know.
Yeah, no, this is actually, thank you. Let me share when I say that, I'm literally like, oh my God, what am I going to say? But I feel like I'm going to take it into like two different areas. So for the first time, I've got a good one. It feeds into mental health. So the last time I did something for the first time was actually this week. So I rebuilt a friendship with an old, I guess, like friends, like romantic connection, which had gone left. And I've never been in a position where I've met up with someone and decided to be quite vulnerable and decide to like rebuild that like connection and put myself like out there in that sense. So it was really nice. And I feel like it's a moment of like big growth for me because I'm quite an anxious person in that sense. And I like to avoid things when it comes to that being vulnerable. So so that was probably that's like the freshest thing that I've done for the first time. So I feel like a grown woman because we love communication. And I feel like, oh my gosh, like take me on Tyra Banks. I'm taking your show, Oprah. I've got you. So that's been nice. And then I feel like something more like an activity-based thing would be, in the pandemic, I went into a, oh my gosh, I forgot what it's called, like the no sensory, like sensory deprivation tanks. I did a sensory deprivation tank and that was sick. Like it was really, really cool. Like very weird experience, like you're butt naked in this like tank and it's like completely dark, but the water is like not warm. It's like not hot, but it's like kind of cold, mid-warm, like your body temperature. So you're kind of like, and it's not, you're kind of floating in it and you're kind of thinking, am I cold? No, I'm not. Oh, am I cold? No, you're not. And then it's just pitch black. Very strange and it's really salty, but it like was so relaxing. And it made me feel like I was a baby, like a fetus in a room. So that was a weird experience.
Where did you do that?
I did it in this. I did it in like this health centre near London Bridge. Was it near London Bridge? Borough Market, and yeah.
Cool. What is it supposed to? I've never heard of that before. What is it like? What's it for? Is there a purpose?
So the purpose is for like deep relaxation, for like stress, to recenter yourself basically, and you're just all your senses are like, but it almost feels like if you can think of like if you have this idea of like what space would be like, I kind of feel like that's what it was like because you don't really know if you forget that you're floating. It feels like you're just
there,
like in the universe, like in the metaverse, maybe.
That's so cool, in the metaverse. Love that. That's so sick. Oh my God. You're gonna need to say where that was because
I can I'll send the link.
I'm gonna look into that.
No, that's perfect. And yeah, that's really interesting. Because I think that it's great that like, you know, I'm again, you know, highlighting that we've all done different things. So I think it's really good. And feel free, listeners and watchers, to let us know when was the last time you tried something new as well. But we now come to a fan favorite section, which is obviously the MC of the Month section. And for today's episode, we have picked out UK music as our MC of the month. Now, for anyone who's wondering about who UK music are and what they do, no worries, we've got that all covered. And essentially, they are the collective voice of the UK's world-leading music industry. You know, they represent different sectors, bringing them together, and I think it's really key to collaborate, campaign, and champion music. They've got many different areas of focus. So, you know, they provide a platform for the music industry leaders to share ideas, concerns, goals that can allow the UK music to speak on their behalf with, you know, an authoritative voice. So they're ideas are being heard. They guide policymakers through decision making in the best collective interests of their members. They also promote the music industry as a key national asset to different parts of government, which I think, whether that's with what happened with Stormzy, the music that Stormzy produced, or whether that's with other musicians, not even just, I know UK music only do it for the UK, but if we're talking about music industry in general, that's another good one as well. So they do a lot of work. Now, the reason why we're picking them for this episode is because they've got this really interesting part of their website where they talk about, mental health. And now we've spoken about, different support services available, and we will have their links there as well. But I think it's really nice that they've said, UK Music, is that they're committed to working with charities and their members to help people, with mental health issues. They've explained that around 1 in 4 workers are affected by conditions, whether it's depression, anxiety, stress every year. And they've highlighted the need for them to get the support that these individuals would need. This idea of not suffering alone, which we can all agree with, is not the case, and we should aim to help people, find them help, give them advice and support where needed to help them deal with these mental health issues. And what's really great is that they've put all these different initiatives. They've talking about different groups. So there's a group called Music Support, which is they work closely with another organization, have a 24-hour helpline, which is available to anyone in the industry who's struggling with, addiction or mental health issues and need help. They also talk about help musicians, which support music industry professionals with mental health issues and a range of other problems. As an organization themselves, they've done this really interesting pledge. It's called the Time to Change Employer Pledge. And it's a campaign to, change the way and transform the way that we think about mental health. And, they're hoping that firms across the music industry will join them and, encourage this pledge of changing the way that we think about mental health as a whole. And they've also got loads of different resources, whether that's from the NHS or, working from home and how you can prioritize your own mental health, things like that. So yeah, they're essentially our MC of the month, and feel free, we'll have the links to both, some of the ones we've said before, as well as UK Music and this mental health section. So if there is anyone interested in the music industry, you can check it out. But now we've come, sadly, to the end of the episode. So I just want to start off by saying a huge thank you to Vanessa for being our wonderful speaker, as always. Now, before we go, we always do this, Vanessa. We just want to know, if our listeners want to know a bit more about you, they want to get some information or they want to check out your page, where do they go? What's the easiest way for them to know more about yourself?
Thank you for having me on as well. I really appreciate it. You can find me on @NessaMariaW on all platforms. Vanessa Maria on LinkedIn, vanessamaria.com, the website. So there you go.
That's perfect. And yeah, please do check this out. You do amazing work, Vanessa, and it's been a real pleasure to learn more about you. And like I said, the amazing work that you do. As always, listeners and watchers, if you like the stuff that we've been doing, like, comment, and subscribe is always appreciated. Remember to click the bell notification so you can keep an eye for our next episode. And yeah, it's been great to have another wonderful conversation. It's been great to have the time and opportunity to spend with you guys. And yeah, keep an eye out for the next episode of Pick Up the Mic. So that's bye from all of us here, and we hope you have a wonderful day.